Hey guys, LaWaffles here. It's been roughly 2 months since my Shadowware guide came up, and I'm super grateful for all the support that everyone has given me so far. So thank you very much for helping support the growth of this channel. Within the time that has passed since my Shadowware guide went up, I've had a lot of questions that have been asked by both the community and you guys that I hope to cover in this video. Shadowware is a very simple and straightforward class on the surface, sporting some of the hardest hitting skills in the game combined with other utility and mobility skills. In the Shadowware guide, I went over a lot of the basics when it comes to Shadowwares, so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the more technical things that you can do with this class. As a bonus, we'll also be going over some tips for mobbing, bossing, and bursting. Mobbing works differently for every class, and Shadowwares are no exception to this rule. Boomerang Stab and Savage Blow are going to be the skills that you use the most, but there's another skill that makes a significant difference when it comes to mobbing, and that's Shadow Veil. Upon activation, this skill is going to summon an ally to deal damage in a large area over 12 seconds. The AoE size of this skill is incredible, and it will definitely help a lot of players that are still in the early phases of the game hit level 200 faster, as it becomes available to you at level 160. One thing I really like about this skill is that it can be casted pretty much anywhere. You can even cast this skill while you're hanging on a rope for some reason. Another thing that I really like about this skill is that just like in Smokescreen, it also keeps you in Darksight, and as many Shadowware mains know, staying in Darksight means damage. This skill shines in the mobbing category for Shadowwares because you can pretty much plop it down anywhere on the map and you don't need to worry about that area for the next 12 seconds. And on some maps like Cavern Lower Path, the AoE of this skill is so big that it covers almost the entire map. Staying on the topic of mobbing, post-5th job Shadowwares get a lot of map control as they acquire their 5th job skills like Trick Blade and Shadow Assault. One thing a lot of veteran Shadowwares like to do is manage their cooldowns equally. There are a couple of skills that have a very good AoE effect. However, the problem with these skills is that they all have cooldowns. Let's take Shadow Assault for example. I see a lot of players using all 4 of their charges back to back. I'm not really a big fan of this. While this skill is one of the best when it comes to mobbing, it's also only one of the skills that give you very good mobility, and I personally try not to overuse it to the point where it has a cooldown. Allow me to explain. This is Moras, one of the areas in the Arcane River. This region in the Arcane River is known by the community to have some of the worst map layouts for hunting, as every map is enormous. Instead of using all my Shadow Assault charges right away, I find it better to space out the time in which I use each charge. Not only does doing this make your character mob a lot more fluently, it also helps you feel more mobile while playing Shadowware, as you don't have to fall back on flash jump as often as you would have to. One thing I'd like to point out is that when you use the first charge of Shadow Assault, the 1-minute cooldown will start. In practice, slowly using your charges will help you to cycle through your cooldowns, making it feel like Shadow Assault never had a cooldown in the first place. Bossing is a staple in Maplestory, and whether you're fighting Chaos Root Abyss bosses or someone like Lucid, Shadowwares are super versatile. One of the things that makes Shadowwares unique in bossing is that they are often the first to attack the boss after a mechanic. This is often shown in one of their signature skills, Trick Blade. In bossing, this skill will allow you to teleport behind a boss. It also grants you a short invincibility buff that lasts approximately 1 second. This skill might be one of the hardest hitting skills in the game and in the Shadowwares kit entirely, but what this allows you to do is get up close to a boss before many other classes in the game are able to. As you can see here, I'm one of the first players in the party to get back to attacking the boss after an attack. Another thing that makes Shadowware very versatile in bossing is how mobile they can be in a boss fight. When it comes to dodging an attack, or even if the boss is moving around like crazy, you have a lot of things to make sure that you stay right on top of the boss and continue damaging it. And even if skills like Shadow Assault and Trick Blade are on cooldown, you still have Smokescreen to fall back on to tank through attacks that would otherwise kill you. Some bosses in the game like to knock players around with some insane knockback attacks. However, Shadowwares have 2 skills that actually negate this knockback effect. And would you believe me if I told you it's a skill that you'll be using the most when bossing? Well, Shadowwares have 2 skills that plant them in place and make them invulnerable to knockback effects, which are Assassinate and Sonic Blow. These 2 skills are the main reason as to why Shadowwares have a lot of an easier time bossing than most other classes in the game. When you're able to stay right on top of a boss, it allows you to get some additional swings in, but it can also allow you to avoid some rather interesting deaths. Goodbye.
No! Unlucky.
Yeah, unlucky. I saw that one. So Sonic Blow is the hardest hitting skill in the Shadower's kit, period. However, there are some precautions that you need to watch out for. I mentioned in the Shadower guide that this skill plants you in place while the skill is active. You can't even open your inventory while it's active. And while literally destroying everything and anything in front of you sounds very appealing, it should also be noted that if you are killed or stunned while channeling the skill is immediately cancelled, which is why this skill pairs extremely well with Trick Blade and its 1 second invulnerability. Not only are you immune to damage while you use Trick Blade, but you're also immune to crowd control, which means you're basically guaranteed to hit majority of your Sonic Blow unless the boss unfortunately moves out of the way. A lot of players have been asking me for a 40-second burst video, so I wanted to go over quickly what to do. Just like many classes in the game, we have a couple of skills that are necessary to use before bursting. These skills are Epic Adventurer, Last Resort, Shadow Walker, Smokescreen, and for even more damage, the Terms and Condition Link skill from Angelic Buster. We want to activate these skills in an order based on which skills last longer and which skills have more of an effect. The first skill we are going to be using is Epic Adventurer, followed by Shadow Walker, Terms and Condition, and finally Last Resort. You may have noticed that I didn't say Smokescreen. As some of you may have noticed, it's supposed to let you deal a little more critical damage. The main reason I didn't mention this skill is that the critical damage part is still bugged and does not work. However, Korean Maplestory does have a patch that is coming to fix this, so when that gets fixed, we'll be slotting that in right between Shadow Walker and Terms and Condition. Now, in terms of damaging skills, we're going to be leading off with Sonic Blow, as it is the hardest hitting skill in our kit. We're also going to summon Shadow Veil so that we'll be able to get some more damage and then proceed to spam Assassinate. And for those of you who have solved your Meso Explosion weaving, you'll be able to spam that skill and optimize your kill stack generation. You'll also want to be using Trick Blade as often as you can in bursting. However, do be careful when using this in Golux and Lucid, as when you use it in Phase 3, you'll be teleported to the very bottom of the map for some reason. Korean Maplestory had this problem as well, and it has been fixed for them. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait for that day to come patiently. Now, there is actually a rare situation that can occur, and that situation is that you hit hard enough with a third job skill called Midnight Carnaval. This skill is pretty slow, but what's important to note about it is that it hits up to 14 times. So if you're able to hit more than 80 billion damage on each cast, it will actually be more optimal to use this skill over Assassinate. The reason I say 80 billion is that Assassinate actually comes out 25% faster than Midnight Carnival does, which means that with each cast you will have to deal at least 25% more damage than Assassinate. There are very rare situations as to which this is possible, but some high-level Shadowers are able to hit this mark in Phase 3 of Lucid. Shadowers definitely hold a special place in the community. Whether you play it just for the nostalgia of remembering Assaulter and Band of Thieves, or you enjoy an all-around playstyle, Shadowers never disappoint in any situation. For me, Shadower has cemented themselves as my favorite class. While there is a damage curve thanks to Assassinate's low line count, this class is still one of the fan favorites thanks to its incredible growth from 4th job to 5th job. And with the positive changes coming from Korean Maplestory, it's possible that the popularity of this class is going to go up.